Good morning. I am Chrissy Kim, a member of the Board of Trustees of Tahoma UU Congregation. As we begin our gathering, I respectfully acknowledge that I speak to you today from occupied Puyallup, Nisqually, and Steilacoom ancestral land. I pay respect to elders past and present and extend that respect to their descendants and all Indigenous people. We welcome all who are joining us with a longing for community, the hope for peace, and who are seeking justice. We are a diverse congregation which encourages each one who comes through our doors to find their own truth and belief. We invite all who join us in a search for meaning and community, guided by reason, respect for each other, and by love. We're delighted to welcome Reverend Linda back from her sabbatical today. So yay, cheers, whatever you do. It's wonderful to see her online. And while we certainly appreciated Reverend Joe's leadership in her absence the past few months. Following our online worship service, Reverend Linda invites you to join her for social time in person at 12 o'clock noon at Wapato Park for our last scheduled outdoor gathering at Wapato this season. And we have a delightfully sunny, if cool, weather forecast for our gathering today. Also, immediately following worship service, we will have an online option for social time in a Zoom meeting room. We'll paste that link at the end of the worship service, or you can find it via the church calendar. As we wait for COVID levels to drop, our Coming Together team continues to work on guidelines and preparations for when the COVID levels drop and we can have worship services in the sanctuary again. Pierce County currently remains at very high risk levels, and you can find more information on the levels at covidactnow.org. Our team monitors the levels at COVID Act Now and also uses information provided by the Unitarian Universalist Association to shape guidelines for our congregation. In the meantime, we do have guidelines for small groups of 8 or less to meet in the sanctuary while COVID levels remain very high in Pierce County. And you can find details about small group meeting guidelines via the Coming Together link on the website. Chalice circles have options to meet in person or online this year. Groups will be beginning to meet soon, so be sure to register right away if you haven't already. Details can be found in the weekly e-news. Next Sunday, November 7th, Reverend Linda will lead our annual Remembering Worship service, when we remember those who have died. If you wish to share a photo of your beloved in the slideshow of memory, please email the photo and the person's name by this Thursday, and then join us online as we gather in grief and celebration. Friends, please read through your e-news when it arrives in your inbox each week. It is the primary channel for you to stay connected and informed on all that is happening in our congregation. Our staff works hard to assure your e-news contains all of the news and information you ask for and expect. Thank you. And thank you too for your ongoing financial support to our congregation that makes all of this possible. Our programs, our staff who create and facilitate the programs, and all the connections we make through our congregation. Now, let us welcome back Reverend Linda and join together in worship.
Good morning, everyone. It is such a pleasure to be back in the sanctuary and to be back with you today. Our opening words are from my colleague, Wayne Arneson. From separate lives and different paths we have come. From distinct joys and private sorrows we have come. From unique insights and personal convictions we have come. We have come and we are gathered to make a common life at the crossroad of our paths, to expand our joys and to share our burdens, to deepen our insights and announce our convictions. We are here and we have gathered to weave the threads of our lives into the whole cloth of religious community. In worship together, we celebrate the weaving we create. It is so good to be together. Now, we have a little surprise for you. So I want you to just hold on for a second while we rearrange a few things here in the background. Voila! Look who's here. Back in June, when I left for my sabbatical, I passed the chalice flame of our congregation over to Reverend Joe so that he might carry it while I was away. Well, today he's here to pass it back to me. His tending and care of it has been a great gift to all of us, and I receive the flame in gratitude and joy. Joe, are you ready to pass the flame?
Dear Reverend Linda and Tahoma UU, I pass this flame with honor and so much abiding gratitude.
Other way, other way.
Oh,
There you go.
yes.
Amazing. Tim, will you
Voila.
lead us in our chalice lighting words?
I like this story because I think about how we all have days. Maybe some days it's days we're feeling angry, or days when we're just feeling a little anxious about something, or our minds are just swirling around in our head and we can't get calm. And sometimes it's just a moment. And sometimes we have times in our life where we all just need to take maybe a few days or weeks or months to find ourselves and center ourselves and just help be the best selves we can be. So Moody Cow helps us remember that. That is our time for all ages today. And I send you out with the words that we use always in our sanctuary. We hold you in our love as you go, as you go. May your hearts be at peace as you go, to nurture the spark of your precious life. We hold you in our love as you go. Take care.
Now is the time to offer our financial gifts to the work of this congregation. Thank you for your consideration to support our church during this unprecedented time. You may follow the link on the following slide, or click the link in the chat, or text your donation to support our church and staff to keep our congregation connected in new and dynamic ways. Every little bit helps. And while we may be physically apart, our gifts are stronger together. All right. We dedicate ourselves and our offerings to the work of this congregation, weaving a tapestry of love we call community, both within and beyond these walls.
My friends, I invite you into a time of pausing, of reflection, meditation, prayer, whatever is most your custom. I want to offer you these words of a poem by Rosemary Watola Tromer. I need to tell you that her first name is spelled Rosemerry. I rather love that name. Her poem is called Shavasana, and if you are unfamiliar with that term, it is a pose in yoga. It is called in English the corpse pose, and it is a pose that yoga practitioners take at the end of their yoga practice to allow their bodies to integrate the movement and the insights and the breath and the moments. I offer you these words for reflection as we move into a time for meditation. Once again, the field rehearses how to die. Some of the grass turns golden. Some simply fades into brown. Just this morning, I too lay in corpse pose, practicing how to let myself be totally held by the earth without striving, how to meet the day without rushing off to do the next necessary or beautiful thing. Soon the grass will bend or break, molder or disintegrate. Every year, the same lesson in how to join the darkness, how to be unmade, how quietly we might lean into the uncertainty of whatever comes next. Let us pause in stillness, breathing together in our separate places. We'll come out of the stillness to the sound of the gong.
2 weeks after a silent retreat by Heather Lanier. How quickly I lose my love of all things. I nearly flick an ant off the cliff of an armchair. But remember, self, the week you spent enveloped in psalms, intoned by monks. By Wednesday, you beheld a three-balled body creeping around in the onion skin of your book. Its 6 teensy toothpick legs bent into all manner of delicate angles. Your chest became a doorway to a spacious, unmarked heaven. You love the ant. The kingdom, said Christ, is at hand, meaning not ticking above in a time bomb of gold-paved streets, but tapping its antennae along the heart line of your imperfect palm. Thank you.
My friends, I begin my sermon today with some appreciations. I can't think of any other way to begin. First, it's to you, the congregation, who included my sabbatical as a part of our agreement when I was called as your minister. It is a tremendous gift to be able to take this kind of time to reflect and restore and rest and reimagine over several months' time. There are few professions that include such practices, and I am so very grateful to you all, for offering it to me and for your ongoing support to the congregation during the time I was gone. I want to offer a special shout out to our board of trustees and our other leadership, volunteer leadership, who have taken on tasks and held the congregation over these months. A big whoop and holler for our staff, Libby Ball, Nancy Slocum, and John Hargis, for the extra complications of serving our congregation while I was away. Their ongoing support and care makes our congregation strong. To our community affiliated ministers, the Reverend Tandy Rogers and the Reverend Jim Anderson, for their availability to Joe and to the staff, and for coming in and preaching. And finally, of course, gratitude to the Reverend Joe Rettenmeyer for his care, his preaching, his support and guidance. Thanks so very much to all of you who made it possible and continue to be part of our beloved community. For today, my assignment: write a short essay about what you did on your summer vacation. How many years did I have to write that? How many years did you have to write that? returning to school after a lengthy summer of summer camps and play in the creek, of camping and riding bikes to the pool, of swimming in lakes and hiking in mountains, we were asked to report. And so here is my sabbatical report and some reflection for you. A few numbers to start us off. Early in July, I boarded the Empire Builder Amtrak train with a 30-day train pass, and I started an adventure. As close as I can figure, between July 10th and August 4th, I spent around 140 hours on trains and traveled 4,640-ish miles. Visiting friends and family in Milwaukee, Chicago, Rockville, Maryland, and Minneapolis, I saw colleagues and cousins and college friends, longtime pals from the dance community, that I used to be part of in a variety of places. I went to worship in person in Evanston, Illinois. There were 40 of us scattered through the church that could seat perhaps 400. I sang in a circle of lawn chairs on someone's front yard, and I danced in a magical garden on a Friday night. I ate and laughed and was loud with my cousins, my niece, my brothers, assorted other family members. I put my toes into Lake Michigan and wandered a former summer camp for children that has now become a small rustic resort in West Virginia. I knit sitting on the front porch of a large Victorian house that looked out over a broad, tree-lined avenue. My feet were propped up as I worked on my sock. I walked back and forth on train platforms when we were allowed off the train for a few minutes, and I marveled at the Mennonite travelers in their bonnets, in their wide-brimmed hats, in their suspenders, and their simple dresses. The cutaway beards on men were spectacular. And I watched as miles and miles and miles and miles of landscape went by, these mostly empty spaces, as I crossed the West. It was fully restorative, even with sleeping in the coach seats, which I did. 51 hours of my time away was spent in workshops with poets. Some of it was simply listening to poets speak about their craft and reading their works. I got to listen to poets that I've loved reading for years and met new ones who captured my heart and who I am pursuing with some fervor these days. I've written 17 poems and have 8 more hours of classes in another workshop. You'll hear about this as time goes by. Trust that my soul has been nourished and I have been deeply challenged in many ways. I can hardly recount them all. Also, since the last week in June, I've walked 302 miles. 302 miles. I'm astonished by that number. Much of that was out in forests and along beaches. Everywhere I walked, I snapped pictures of the landscape or whatever beauty or interesting vision I could find. I had particular luck in finding geese and ducks feeding, their perpendicular bodies showing off their tail feathers. Even when I wasn't pulling out my phone and opening my camera, I was on the lookout for clouds, for vistas, for the interesting patterns of roots on the ground, and colors that caught my eye. Finally, in August, I tried out a new yoga studio, the one I had practiced at prior to the pandemic closed, sadly. And I finally got back to in-person classes a few times a week. Because I don't have space at home, my body has missed the movement and the stretches. My mind has missed the focus, and my soul has missed the many lessons I learn every time I step on the mat. Seek not perfection, I remind myself as I step into Warrior Two. Love your body by listening to her. I remember when I back off out of a pose. Challenge is good for you too, I remember. Don't expect symmetry, my teacher says. Remember to breathe. So I bring this rested body and spirit back here to find our way along to whatever is coming. And who the heck knows what that is? As the poem by Rosemary Watola Tromer I shared for our meditation today reminds us, every year the same lesson, how to join the darkness, how to be unmade, how quietly we might lean into the uncertainty of whatever comes next. If I've learned anything over the last 2 years, it's that we have to always be ready to lean into the uncertainty of whatever comes next. I think when we're honest, we've all known that. We've known that we've never known what's coming ever. Life has always been uncertainty, no matter the safety and security that we might feel. All it takes is the fatal diagnosis, metal crinkling, and airbags being deployed. All it takes is the flare of anger and harsh words and doors slamming. All it takes is those final goodbyes we have to say. But we don't live like that most of the time. I'm reminded as I say that of the nuclear physicist who became so conscious of the space that lives between atoms that he became unable to simply walk across a room, fearing that he would fall through those spaces and be lost forever. The story says that he took to wearing enormous boots with the dear hope that they would be large enough to connect with the atoms and thus save him from falling endlessly. We tend to trust that there is solidity under our feet when we walk around, and we can't live as if everything will end momentarily, though goodness knows it's felt like that for longer than any of us could have imagined was possible. Can I get an amen, my friends?
Amen.
Yes, amen. The two lessons that I am bringing back to TUUC and to myself are these. As Heather Lanier tells us in her poem, we need to be aware of all that holiness that surrounds us all the time. That ant, for example, that she marvels at while on retreat becomes less of a miracle 2 weeks later. She is able in a moment to call herself back to the wonder and mystery, though to be honest, she might well still brush that ant off, perhaps after greeting it and acknowledging its wonder and mystery and essential goodness. We can't all live slack-jawed in awe all the time. There are things to be done. This is the balancing act of living into day that we live into day after day. And it is so easy. It is so easy to forget the mystery and the holiness and the awe. To find ourselves, surprisingly, in an unenchanted forest of nothing but that which is soon to be lumber. The second lesson, of course, is related and is noted in the second version of Rosemary Watola Tromer's poem that I've seen. In this one, she changes the last line of the stanza, so the stanza reads, every year, the same lesson in how to join the darkness, how to be unmade, how quietly we might lean into the uncertainty. And here's the change. How generous the ground. How generous the ground. Our ability to practice gratitude, noting that ground that always upholds us, is so utterly necessary. The ability to recognize in all the uncertainty and loss and fear that accompany us every single day, especially in these pandemic times. We need to still recognize the generous ground, the love that we get though we don't deserve it and could never earn it. We need to remember the network of supply and demand and farmers and cows and the buzzing hummingbirds, all of what makes our lives possible, our breath, and all of it, world without end. My dear friends, I return from my sabbatical dedicated to lean into uncertainty with you and to find our way forward in these continually strange and uncertain times. May we do this together with joy, with laughter, with a little dancing, and being utterly fabulous as we are. So may it be. I invite you now to pause for a few moments. If there is something that has touched you today in our service, I invite you to pause and set an intention for how you will carry it out into your days. We'll pause in stillness and then come out to the sound of the gong. Our closing words also by Wayne Arneson. As we now prepare to go our separate ways, may the spirit of love, which is at the heart of this community, give us strength and joy, enabling each to grow into a life rewarding and abundant, rich in service and deep in wisdom.
We extinguish this flame.
We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. We carry in our hearts until we are together again.
From you I receive, to you I give. Together we share, and by this we live. From you I receive, to you I give. Together we share, and by this we live.